Hi friends, today I'm reading a true story called Cubs in the Tub, the true story of the Bronx Zoo's first woman zookeeper. It's by Candace Fleming, illustrated by Julie Downing. Now for a long time, women weren't expected to have careers, and Helen Martini became the first woman zookeeper in the whole country in 1944, and this tells you how she did it. Helen and Fred Martini longed for a baby to bottle feed and burp, a baby to rock and soothe and croon lullabies to, a baby to love with all their hearts. Oh, and in case you're not sure, the Bronx is in New York City. Every morning, Fred went off to his job as the Bronx Zoo. There he is. Helen stayed home to dream and plan, but still there was no baby. Until... Look what he's got there. It's a baby something, you'll see. Helen had never held a lion cub before, much less cared for one. Still, she took the baby in her arms. He was tiny, so newly born his eyes were still closed. She said, "Why isn't he with his mother? Just do for him what you would do for any human baby." Fred explained the mother lion had lost her instinct to take care of her baby. She wouldn't feed him and she wouldn't clean him. She refused to even look at him. Obviously, then that meant he was not going to survive. Now, this is in the late 1930s, early 1940s. They didn't really know a lot about animals, and they didn't know a lot about how to take care of babies that had been abandoned. So Helen was just kind of winging it. Helen cradled the baby close. She marveled at the tiny buds of his ears and the tender pink undersides of his toes. "MacArthur, I'll call you MacArthur." The first thing MacArthur needed was a bath. Good thing Helen had a baby bathtub. She sung a lullaby as she sponged his fur, and soon he was fluffy and soft as a lamb. MacArthur gave a husky cry. Good thing she had those baby bottles and all those cans of formula. MacArthur slurped. Then, a gentle pat on his back brought up the bubbles in his belly. With a sigh, the baby snuggled with his downy head into the curve of Helen's neck. His sweet breath warmed her skin. Think about how cute a baby lion is. Would you like to have one of those in your house? Tiptoe into the crib. Good thing she had one. She tucked him in. Curling his little legs beneath him, MacArthur dreamed. It's a good thing she's willing to take care of him, because I have a feeling he wouldn't have lived if she hadn't. And grew. Helen kept a record of his first. A soft blue. On their 11th day together, MacArthur opened his eyes. On their 15th day together, he got his first tooth. A razor-sharp incisor. And on the 21st day together, he took his first stumbling steps. A great day. This is my cat Stella. I think she wants to help read. Soon MacArthur was pouncing at Helen's ankles, chewing on Fred's boots, and leaping into their laps whenever either of them sat. What joy it is to have a baby in the house. Look at him. He's eating the shoes. You can see right here he's clawed up the couch a little bit. He looks pretty big too, doesn't he? He's still a baby, but he's pretty big. But when MacArthur was 2 months old, officials decided to send him to a zoo in another city. Helen held her baby close until the car came, and she tried to smile as MacArthur was driven away. Then she folded up the baby blanket, stowed the tub, crib, and bottles, and sank into the rocking chair with an empty arms and an empty lap. If any of you have pets, you know how easy it is to get attached to cats and dogs and any other kind of pet you may have. And so she raised this little baby for 8 weeks and they took it away. That must have been hard. Gray day followed gray day until, here she is up here at the top. Look what he brought this time. Can you see what that is? Tigers, 3 baby tigers. They're in a pretty bad way. Helen stroked the babies, so cold, so thin, so still. Good thing she had a heating pad. She slipped it beneath their tiny bodies and turned it on high. Then she mixed a batch of warm formula and squeezed it into their mouths. Drip, drop, drip. 1, 2, 3. Babies began to wiggle. The kitchen filled with faint chorus of high-pitched cries. She named them Ranaganj, Dhaka, and Rajpur. Sorry, my cat keeps rubbing the computer, which makes it hard for me to read. And once they started eating, they could not stop. Every 3 hours. Around the clock. Good thing Helen and Fred had Fred to help with the 2 a.m. feedings. By the end of the first week, the babies had doubled their weight to 4 pounds. They're pretty cute. I would imagine they're also pretty messy. Days passed and blue eyes opened and folded ears perked up. Little teeth poked through pink gums and personalities appeared. Ranaganj cried whenever Helen put him down and bit and scratched when he didn't get his way. Dhaka was forever boxing her brothers' faces with her fat little paws, then rolling on top of them and pinning them down. Rajpur liked to sleep. Good-naturedly, he accepted whatever came his way, especially food. Wouldn't that be funny to go in someone's house and have 3 tigers playing in the bathtub? Helen let them get away with all sorts of mischief. They romped and tumbled, they snuggled and purred. What a joy it was to have 3 babies in the house. So look, here's her neighbor banging on the ceiling, probably wanting them to be quiet. And here's another neighbor, the dog's barking. And even the next door neighbors are like, what is going on over there? Most people don't have lions and tigers in their house. But when they were 3 months old, it's time for the cubs to return to the zoo. Not without me, not this time. When the car came for them, Helen climbed in. Her babies needed her. At the zoo, she turned the glass-paneled cage into a cozy home. Blankets, bottles, boxes of toys. Good thing Helen brought them all. Then peeking around the partition, she watched her babies play. She called them back for naps and snacks and cuddles. That night, when the visitors left the zoo, the cubs sensed that Helen was leaving too. Ranaganj cried, Dhaka clung to her ankles, and Rajpur scrambled up into Helen's arms and wrapped his paws around her neck. Refusing to stay in their cribs, the 3 snuggled against sleep. It was midnight before Helen finally tiptoed home. In her own bed, she tossed and turned. She imagined she heard the babies crying. At first light, she rushed back to the zoo. Her little ones were still curled up, fast asleep. She kissed 1, 2, 3 sleepy cubs awake, and then it was time for the bottles. Baths and time to play. They've gotten pretty big, haven't they? Day followed day, and no one noticed Helen, so no one told her to go home. Helen began to dream and plan. Is there an empty room around here? Fred showed her the storeroom, in secret between bottles and baths. Helen cleaned, painted, decorated, and created. Now the cubs... Oh, sorry, I missed a page. And she built a nursery. Good thing Helen had all that baby equipment. The first night, the babies sniffed at the pink ceiling and the pale blue walls, the ruffled curtains, the cribs, and toys. Then snuggled close to Helen, they purred. Now the cubs spent their days in the glass-paneled cage, but they spent their nights with Helen in the nursery. News at the nursery reached zoo officials, so she had done this without even asking permission. They stormed through the door and stopped dead in their tracks. Helen raised her chin. My babies need me. The officials looked at one another. Well, so they do, agreed Mr. Crandall, the zoo curator. That means he's like in charge of the whole zoo. And he offered her the job of keeper of the nursery. Helen was delighted and surprised. Only men had held zookeeper jobs before. until now. So now she's officially been hired, and she's actually going to get paid to work there. Helen had mothered her way into becoming the first woman zookeeper at the Bronx Zoo. She and her nursery stayed. The babies grew, too big for laps, too big for cribs, and too big for the nursery. Officials moved them to a larger outdoor enclosure without Helen. They worried the 10-month-old tigers would hurt her. Nonsense! Even though they were twice her size, Helen argued, they still run to me for protection and comfort. But zoo officials were firm. Helen would never again be allowed to enter the tiger's cage. Pressed against the outside of the bars, her arms felt empty. They are pretty huge. So a grown lion can weigh probably 450 pounds. You would, even if they didn't mean to hurt you, you could definitely get hurt by that. But not for long. What a happy zoo family. As I always tell you, any good nonfiction book has information at the back. Here's a bunch of information about Helen. And here's some bibliography, more information about her. And she ended up working at the zoo for about 20 years. And so she raised all kinds of animals, baby skunks, baby deer. In all, I think she raised 27 baby tigers. Let me see. I think it says back here what else she raised. Hedgehogs. A long-haired hedgehog, which I'd never even heard of before. Panthers, lions, jaguars, chimpanzee, a baby gorilla, a sea lion, marmosets, ground squirrel, a deer, I already said that, I guess, ocelots, and orangutans. That's pretty cool. And she worked there for 20 years. I love learning about people's lives, and I like seeing the different kind of jobs they have and just the different decisions they make in their life. I hope you like this story, and I hope you like animals as much as I do. All right, friends, happy reading.